and gentlemen, now for our SD-WAN and SASE panel discussion on the role of automation in SD-WAN and SASE, wherein we're looking at talking about the AI and automation representing the next phase of capitalizing on extensive insights and data already generated by SD-WAN systems. We're joined by our eminent panelists. First up, I'd now like to invite on the stage and screen Prasad Rao, Director IT Infrastructure and Academy. Well, with 19 plus years of industry experience, Prasad is consistent in delivering value to businesses and in the process build high performance team with solution first approach. Thank you so much, Prasad, for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
And joining Prasad now on the stage and screen is going to be Venkat Krishnan Varatharajan, the Senior Vice President and Head Infrastructure, SBI Life Insurance. While having a strong foundation of 25 plus years in IT and currently working as an SVP and Head IT Infrastructure Support and Procurement in SBI Life Insurance. With this, I'd now like to humbly welcome Venkat Krishnan. Thank you, Venkat Krishnan, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you. Joining the gentleman on the stage, first up now is Sujoy Sen, the Director, IT South Asia, the Lint Group. While Sujoy has more than 2 decades of experience in IT and digital transformation management for large manufacturing organizations across multiple geographies. His experience spans in business analysis, design, development, and maintenance. Sujoy has a keen interest using technology to resolve business problems. With this, I'd like to humbly welcome Sujoy. Hello, Sujoy.
Thank you, Bhavna, and welcome everybody.
Great to have you. Joining them on the stage is Kumar Nagaraja, Business Development Manager, SD-WAN, Cisco Systems India Private Limited. Well, Kumar is an evangelist with 30 years of experience in IT infrastructure, technology, and operations. He's held various senior roles in startups to technical roles in large OEMs. With this, I'd like to now welcome Kumar on the screen. Thank you, Kumar.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure being here.
Great to have you here, Kumar. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'd now like to introduce the moderator of this panel discussion. Joining now on the screen is Abhijit Chakravarti, the Vice President, IT Infrastructure Services, Axis Bank. Well, Abhijit is a seasoned ICT professional with 26 years of progressive experience in the field of telecom, IT networking, infrastructure development and management, customer operations, vendor management, and program management. His specialties include network solutions design and architecture, SD-WAN, data center, network operations, telecom services and products, MPLS, IT infrastructure, program management, and customer support. With this, I'd now like to humbly welcome Abhijit on your screen. Hi, Abhijit.
Thank you, Bhavna, for hosting me, and welcome to all my dear panelists. Thank you.
Absolutely. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, your entire panel is on your stage and screen. I'd like to urge everyone to post in your questions, if any, to our panel in your Q&A tab. If time permits, we'll take it up at the end of the panel. With this, Abhijit, the stage and screen is all yours with your panel. Over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. And without much ado, let me straight away come to the the topic of the discussion today, which is mostly around SD-WAN, the automation, and the SASE, and all sorts. So I would start off by posting queries to all the panelists and hear from them, from their experience, and what are their thoughts around this very progressive technology around SD-WAN and SASE. So my first question would be to Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, my first question to you is, what are the main reasons of customers considering to adopt SD-WAN? And what are the trends that you are seeing in SD-WAN adoption in the last past 2-3 years? So yeah, Mr. Kumar, if you would share your thoughts.
Thanks, Abhijit. I think the question is really open, and it's a wide, the answer is pretty quickly. Just to kind of summarize my thoughts on this, a couple of things. One, I mean, everybody relates to the last 1.5 years pandemic. That even before that, I think wide area networking has been probably MPLS. I mean, for the last 30 years, I think. That has not changed, and the applications were in the data center, users were in the branch office, and that was perfect, and it didn't matter at all. Few things that have changed, to kind of not get into the details. I think cloud and some of the things, the way we have adapted ourselves to working from anywhere today, and the devices, which is like, I mean, I'm sure all of us realize on the call, because I heard everybody like 20 plus years, at least on the panel is, I mean, we would be given one machine and we would come to work and we would be able to use these 5 applications and nothing else on those applications. If you wanted to install anything, not possible. Today, that world is gone, right? You can't do that. I mean, everybody will use their own devices, and the application has to work the way it's supposed to work. So fundamentally, net, what has kind of changed, and what is why SD-WAN is important today is because there are more users, the users are everywhere, the applications are everywhere. So it is from place A to place B, like point A to point B, what you used to talk about is now anywhere to everywhere, right? You can be anywhere. It can be in a coffee shop, home, branch office, doesn't matter, airport. And the application can be in the data center. It can be, doesn't matter. So that I think has kind of mandated a completely new paradigm, the inflection point on not that links are going to change, MPLS is going to go away, but the way you access applications. At the end of the day, user experience can't change, application performance cannot change. These two have to kind of always be the same. So that I think has kind of mandated a little bit of a different network, if you will, wide area network. And that's where I think SD-WAN comes into play. And I think quite a bit of a lot of companies have been adapting this. I mean, some of the statistics, just to give you a couple of numbers, why people are wanting to look at SD-WAN, 50 plus percentage. The top 3 is application visibility, enable better business continuity, consolidation, and network. So fundamentally, application aware, making business decisions in a better way, and kind of making sure it is easy not to go and look at, if I have 200 locations, I have to send somebody to 200 locations to make a configuration change. All of these kind of things have mandated some of these SD-WAN kind of in our world. And I think I've been spending, I mean, at least the 6 years that I've spent predominantly on SD-WAN. Secondly, from a business perspective, from the second part of your question, where you said, what has been the adaptation and what is, I think there is no choice. Businesses have been kind of reimagining applications. They really don't care. At one time, the network guy would be the first person who would be contacted and said, hey, I want this application. Can you set it up? Today, because the network guy go to the service provider, make sure feasibility is available, blah, 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 and all that. The branch has to open in this location. Today, that's not the case. They will open the branches. You just need to figure out how to provide connectivity. They will start to use applications. You just need to provide the experience, right? There's no choice for the IT manager. I'm sure, Abhijit, you've gone through this as a part of the bank, but there is no choice, right? There is no validation. Business has to grow. These applications have to be there. Users' experience has to be the same. So reimagining applications has been one of the biggest challenges, and also empowering teams, right? Doesn't matter where the end user is sitting, making sure that they provide the same experience. And I mean, transforming infrastructure, I told you that, right? BYOD, bring your own devices, whatever device, it didn't matter. I can do it from an iPad, cell phone, the application has to be same. Yeah. And all said and done, security posture can change.
So thank you for your thoughts, Kumar. I think that's a brilliant, kind of, you've given a very wide horizon for us to start this discussion. My next question would be to Mr. Venkat Krishnan. Mr. Venkat, if you are online, hope you're able to hear us. And yes. So, Mr. Venkat, my question to you is, what business benefits do you anticipate with the adoption of SD-WAN?
See, as Kumar just told, and as I think so, all the SD-WAN users would have realized by now that first of all, business wants their applications to run seamlessly 100% of the time. They don't tell us now that I want it from this time to this time, or there's no working hours now. And with the onset of this pandemic and work from home or work from anywhere culture, people have started working from 7 o'clock in the morning till say late 11, 12, 1 in the night. And applications need to be working at that point of time. And business, I mean, there's no start or end of a day in a business time now. So we need to keep the ball rolling, the support that is required for all these businesses business applications to be running seamlessly without any hitch, without any without the thinking of security. Everything has to be taken care, and the performance also need to be seamless, whether they are working from office or from home or from cafe or even sometimes a resort in some of these cases. So I think so. The outlook has really changed now. The paradigm has shifted, as everybody is telling. We are looking at. I mean, we have to. There's no other choice. MPLS. There was a limited thing. Earlier, it was broadband. Now, with the onset of SD-WAN, at least we can, think of combining MPLS with a broadband or even with a 5G or a 4G or 3G network to give connectivity to all these people. Otherwise,
So that's pretty interesting, Venkat. In fact, what I heard you say is that you said anywhere to anywhere connectivity, you said security, you
yes,
touched upon
yes,
possibility of using combinations of various media, which is, I would put it as network optimization. So, yep, thank you for your thoughts and sharing your experience, Venkat. My next question would be to Mr. Prasad Rao. And the question to you, Mr. Prasad, is what are the tangible and intangible benefits that you kind of see while when you kind of going for adopting SD-WAN? What
Sure. So I would
both tangible and intangible in your manners?
Sure. So overall, I would like to put it across this way. If I think about uh, our days where we were managing the networks and storage and uh, the complete data center as such, as per the business requirement, we used to get calls, being network engineers or system engineers, that my application requires this much bandwidth, my application wants higher performance. So, there used to be a lot of complex configurations that we used to, go through, and it used to be very, very complex. So the primary advantage of adopting SD-WAN is, I think, it lowers the complexity of the IT team as such, and and thus being very flexible in terms of adopting or implementing any application that business wants. That brings out a lot of flexibility to the IT team to manage these applications according to the business requirement. That's one. Secondly, yes, with this, it actually improves a lot of performance of the applications as well, because we get a lot of these within our organizations. We have data services to be given, we have voice services, and everything seems critical these days. There's nothing like this is my low impact application, or this is my high impact application. So in today's world, everything is important, and every application going down could cost a lot to the organization. So it improves a lot of performance. It gives a lot of scope for the IT team to do this kind of intelligent management of the network infrastructure, bandwidth, or the devices and things like that. And then a lot of boost in the security angle. It brings in a lot of security enhancement also. And apart from having a lot of security infrastructure in place, SD-WAN actually with the double-edged sword, I would say, it brings a lot of security in the data center organization. Also, I feel that it kinds of increases the cloud usage or cloud adoption strategy also. It enables us to direct access to the cloud. It is kind of adding a lot of benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. So in kind of the takeaways from this is I kind of heard you talk about simplicity. You spoke about better manageability. You talked about being able to define application criticality and actually meet them, and you touched upon the word to go today, which is the cloud, and which definitely brings me to my next question. And my next question would be to Mr. Sujoy. Hi, Mr. Sujoy. The question to you is, how do you foresee the role of SD-WAN in the cloud connectivity and the cloud connected environment, if I may use that word?
Am I audible, Abhijit, clearly? And
Yes, absolutely loud and clear.
was having a bit of a glitch, and it says that it has to fail when it has to fail, kind of. So that's the.
That's why we all are here, not to worry.
And that's why SD-WAN, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I think some of our speakers like Venkat and Kumar, Prasad, they all touched upon the implication of cloud and how things are changing. So I would say SD-WAN will allow us to get the best benefit of the cloud coming in, right? So the cloud has also becoming a very complex environment if you see now, right? We're talking about a multi-cloud, a hybrid cloud kind of an environment. So SD-WAN, what it is allowing us to do is that depending on the criticality of the application, easy onboarding to the cloud system itself. That's what the SD-WAN is giving. I'll give you one example. Like when this pandemic came in, there was a big thrust on doing this Teams meeting and everything else, right? So we were heavily into that. And I'm sure everybody else is. Now, if you see the traditional MPLS network, how is the flow happening? Everything is getting into a black hole kind of a thing, going to the central data center, and then going back out to the internet itself. So for locations which are not on a very high scale or a heavy bandwidth internet connectivity, they are getting very badly penalized because of that kind of an architecture. So SD-WAN is a very good solution for us, right? So what we are being able to do is that categorize, earmark those kind of communications itself and give them an easy way out to the cloud itself, right? And they don't need to go into that black holing process and get a better solution. So the benefit of the cloud, I would say, is more enabled with SD-WAN itself. So if today SD-WAN would have not been there, we would probably still be on the cloud, but the utilization of the cloud, the derivation of the cloud would be much more weaker, and it is much better with the SD-WAN coming in. That's why I would say SD-WAN is enabling cloud adoption much more faster. That is what my take on that one would be.
Thank you so much, Sujoy. So again, very good takeaways from your. So one is that a cue from Nagraj where we said anywhere connectivity. I think you endorsed that. Distributed connectivity instead of centralizing everything to a data center, ensuring that traffic reaches the application much faster and on a much shorter path than being traditionally backhauled to a central data center. And so yes, and third and important piece of it is definitely security. Thanks, Sujoy. I will go on with the next question, and this question is with to Mr. Kumar Nagraj. Mr. Kumar, do you see any specific trends across the industry segments in in adoption of SD-WAN? For example, across manufacturing, healthcare, retail, banking, so on and so forth. Is there something that's kind of pretty unique that you see, or how is it? We want to kind of hear insights from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, SD-WAN, I mean, I'm going to answer this from a generic perspective and a little bit of a Cisco perspective, obviously, because generic, yes, anybody who has large location, large number of branch offices, locations, has cloud adoption, definitely SD-WAN. I think Sujay talked about it, all of us mentioned about it. Second, anybody who has internet connectivity. See, because today MPLS availability and bandwidth required to access applications because user experience has changed is kind of a limitation. Sometimes service providers provide it, sometimes everybody is going broadband. So breaking traffic at the branch becomes a very important thing. So that adoption is pretty high. Now, how that adoption is happening, just to give you a little bit our perspective, and again, a little bit of personal opinion on this. We see in India a lot of government, banking sector leading some of these ways. I mean, we've done a lot of work in that area. We have branches, we have, locations from starting anywhere between 100 to at least 2,500 locations per customer. So we've seen that kind of, adaptation from a banking, public sectors. Even today, defense is kind of not as much, but we see that getting a lot of that there. Absolutely retail, no question about it, because there, Again, the bandwidth is very hungry, MPLS, and there is a little bit of cost savings in terms of that. So a lot of retails, there is a lot of impact on SD-WAN.
So,
What we've seen,
Nagaraj, I'm just interrupting. So, I just want to touch upon this point. Maybe is that, do you see the adoption on retail much more because maybe the cloud adoption that side is also pushing the SD-WAN adoption?
absolutely, cloud adoption, some of the things like, failover, failback, and see, think about it, right? When I get into a retail store, all I need is my billing has to happen on time, and my loyalty points or my insurance, whatever that needs to be, because it has to happen. If I don't have it happen, then I'm going to move to another store, right? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens in the retail. What we've seen is logistics. All these, the delivery mechanisms, there's a lot of that part of it as well from an SD-WAN integration, because they keep growing, they changes the locations, right? Because the delivery happens on the local different points. So we see that to be because for us, when you move SD-WAN, I mean, when you move from building to building or location to location, you don't need to do anything. You just pick up the router, go connect it there, right? The zero trust provisioning, things like that. Earlier, it was like provision an MPLS thing, put a router, go configure. All that was a challenging thing, right? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens in the logistics sector as well. Of course, healthcare, I mean, we see a lot more coming to, because today you've seen that, right? Remote operations, doctors watching somebody else doing their operations, and radiology where they look at health reports and stuff. That also, there's a lot of it, but those are very bandwidth hungry applications. So there is a lot of it. I mean, in my world, I don't know. I'm just going to, like, personal opinion, in the next 3 years, 5 years, everything is SD-WAN, right? Predominantly. It has to be, because end of the day, the benefits of that is so much. Yeah, I mean, some people say first 10 locations, does it make sense? But yes, it does, in some point, in some form. So adoption is really good. India has been one of the larger things. We have seen a lot of adoption in the larger public sector, banks, and all that stuff as well, from our perspective.
So thank you, Kumar.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I think good insights, Kumar, and it definitely helps. Yes, SD-WAN is the way to go. Yes, different organizations look at it differently, but good insights.
Just one thing I want to add, sorry, Abhijit, one last comment is, see, well, basic capabilities of SD-WAN, what we have seen is the manifestation of it is into security, cloud, SASE kind of a thing, and scalability. I think those are the points that we have seen to be one of the critical factors when somebody is evaluating and doing some of these things.
Very valid points, Kumar. In fact, my next question that's directed to Mr. Venkat, in fact, touches upon this point is, Mr. Venkat, the question to you is, how do you see SD-WAN complementing the, SASE and the ZTNA deployments, which kind of enhances your security? So both SASE and ZTNA are kind of enhanced security measures, right? In your opinion, how do you see SD-WAN complementing it? How do you see SD-WAN helping it? Yes. Venkat, you're possibly muted.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. SASE, as you tell, it is actually security, access, and secure edge. And edge security now plays a very important role, because, as I last time told, people are accessing from anywhere. So being at home or from a coffee place or any place, security, and how do you actually access these applications without, I mean, from a public network, which is very vulnerable as of date. So security actually is the paramount thing that is to be, looked at for all this in our current organizations. And SD-WAN actually is complementing SASE, because most of it is, SASE is more into the cloud thing, and we have, to look into access of our applications, whether there are any other what do you call the endpoint security, which is very important nowadays, because any endpoint which gets infected can infect our overall system. So SASE is the right thing, which will actually prevent our the thing on the cloud or on the on-prem data center to be safe and sound. The other thing which actually is more important now is coming is the data prevention, data loss prevention loss thing, which is again with all the regulations coming around our PII data and everything, SPI data and everything. So we need to really take care of those things. So DLP in the cloud, our proxies in the cloud. So the zero trust, which is actually, we don't want anybody to come into our network, is really the most thing which all our organizations are looking into, and I think so SD-WAN complementing SASE is the right way to go. Otherwise,
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Venkat. And you are correct. Security has become the in thing now. Since a lot of people on this call would be understanding Hindi, so I have this cliche where I always kind of make use of this word. So there is this word, there is the sentence which says "Log kya kahenge?" What will people say? Right. And when you are in a digital world, it's very important that log kya kahenge? What will the logs say? So very
correct,
important that
correct.
you have to have all your security, zero trust, all all your security incidents, all your security policies in place. Otherwise, you don't really know what will log kahenge about what will log kahenge, right? So that's very, very good, right? Thanks so much for that, Venkat.
And in
I'll
fact,
move
I think
on to Mr. Prasad. I'll move on
just
to
to add,
Mr. Prasad. Yes, please go ahead.
just to add one more thing, with SD-WAN, you can, push all your, parameters that need to be set for the security centrally. So
Yes.
that actually really,
Yes.
increases the
Policy-based configurations,
right.
and that can be reviewed centrally. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Venkat. Mr. Prasad, the next query is directed to you. What, in your opinion, are the key requirements for a successful SD-WAN deployment? I mean, when you consider deploying SD-WAN, what are the key factors that kind of are very important to be considered?
Sure.
Uh,
Sir, if you permit, in continuation to log kya kahenge, kuch to log kahenge.
yeah, for sure.
Whatever you do, bloody, kuch to log kahenge, kuch
Sure.
log bhi kahenge. Right. So, sir, what I have seen in my experience is that in most of the projects that we intake, even during the SD-WAN implementation, also that what I've seen is we tend to ignore getting into or of reviewing the applications that we have, right? So I think reviewing the applications that we have internally is very, very important, which means that which are those business critical applications, which are those applications which are non-critical and which requires more prominence, which require more bandwidth, which require more security. And I think this is the first step of that we need to take when we are trying to adopt SD-WAN and have a proper blueprint that these are my applications which is getting into the SD-WAN network, and then based on that we need to plan the next step. So once you have that roadmap, I think we need to take up the approach and assess the each site as a unique site. So like in a multi-branch organization, we need to have different approach for different branches and sites. Like what bandwidth they have or what kind of transport layer that they have, MPLS, broadband, or internet lease line. So and we should treat every branch as unique, because every branch or every office may be different in its their function. So this is very important. We cannot treat every location as the same, and then we should take a holistic approach based on each branch requirement. And then also the implementation stage next. So what are the type and how do we implement? Because we would have already have network infrastructure. Some may be legacy, some may be new devices. And then we should also take a call on if we can upgrade few devices and then make them work. We can implement the SD-WAN policies on those devices, and then few layers we may have to replace. So how we can mix and match so that ROI can be calculated appropriately.
I think yeah. So very, very valid inputs again, Mr. Prasad. So I think key takeaways you mentioned are actually, I would kind of want to sum it up if I am allowed to kind of say that, you kind of talked about a lot about profiling. How do you profile applications? How do
Exactly.
we profile sites? How do you profile connectivities? How do you profile criticalities? And that should form as one of the basis of figuring out as to, what can SD-WAN deliver to you. Very valid points. Thank you so much. Mr. Sujoy, the next question is directed to you. And this is a pretty interesting question, right? And I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would want to hear it. So how, so whenever you need to do a technology change, there is cost involved, there are approvals involved. So the question is plain and simple as to how do you influence this, in terms of, kind of influencing your management and getting, kind of towards the adoption of SD-WAN?
Yeah, so it's basically a two-way sword kind of a thing, right? Because what Prasad and Venkat and Kumar mentioned, that there is the maintainability of SD-WAN, the benefit of what we get on the security, centralizations, and so on. But at the end of the day, how do you reflect that on the numbers, kind of, right? That is what the business or the approvers would actually be looking for. In some of our scenarios, like because we had very expensive MPLS links running, so it was sort of an easy calculation for us because we could offload some of this MPLS expensive traffic to the low cost ISPs, broadbands, and everything else. That was the one advantage. I mean, we can really calculate a very good ROI calculations on top of it, and we can show them. Fortunate, our SD-WAN partner also came up with not a CapEx kind of a model. It was a pay-as-you-go kind of a model, OpEx kind of a model. So the initial heavy investment we were being able to afford. And then show that there is a pay-as-you-go. And also being able to
I think we are losing you a bit, Sujoy. I'm not sure if you have a connectivity. Maybe
right?
A video. If you could turn off your video, maybe it'll kind of, maybe. No, we are still losing you, Sujoy. I think Sujoy is having some connectivity issues. We are kind of missing, listening to him. But I think what I heard from him is, what are the cost parameters that are under consideration that you can kind of talk about? What are the savings in terms of multiple hardware costs, AMC costs, technology costs? I think those are important, and obviously added onto it as to what are the betterment that you would see in terms of services and uptime. So this is what Sujoy was speaking about, but I think some connectivity issues and we lost him. So so that kind of sums up this session, and I think it's been a pretty interesting session. And we heard a lot of insights from all the panelists, very valid points. I kind of tried to sum it up at the end of the responses from each of the panelists to try and kind of explain in a very concise manner as to what they spoke about. Now, before we end this session, we would definitely look at if there are any questions that are directed to any of the panelists. We can look at them. And in summary, I would say adoption of SD-WAN is moving towards SST. S for speed, S for simplicity, and T for trust, inclusive of security. So if there is any revamp that you are working upon on your network architecture and you definitely need SST, speed, simplicity, and trust, I think SD-WAN is the technology that you should definitely evaluate and go ahead with. So with that, I think I'll hand it over for any question and answers that we have for us, for the panelists.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, firstly for joining us, and what an incredible panel discussion that was. I just like, before we end this panel, just some closing thoughts from everyone, just in one statement as to what you feel about SD-WAN. I mean, you all come with so much of incredible experience. what do you feel is the future scope, let's say 0 to 6 months down the line? How do you see it evolving? So I'd like to start with Venkat Krishnan. Over to you.
Okay, I think so. Just like Prasad and everybody here has been telling, I think so. SD-WAN is the next way to go. Most of the companies have already gone. The rest of the companies will follow, and I think so. Might be in another year or so, more than 80% of the people will be in SD-WAN, because I mean, there's no other choice. I mean, you need to have security, you need to have connectivity, and I don't know till when this pandemic will go. So this is the way to go, I think so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Kumar, I'd like to know your point of view as to the road ahead for SD-WAN when we're looking at short-term, 6 to 12 months down the line. You're on mute. I believe you're on mute.
Yeah. So I said, 100% to what Venkat said. I think according to IDC, the 60% plus people are already on some SD-WAN journey, and I think only 17% said no plans. So I think that says it all, right? It will be the direction to go. I think that has nothing to do with the transport or MPLS or service providers, but I think it'll continue to be what it is. But I think that's the direction a lot of them are going, and it'll lead its way into SaaS. That's my.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks everybody, and pleasure being on this. Really appreciate.
Thank you, Kumar. So Joy, your point of view?
I think my view would be exactly the same with what others say, that we would be, SD-WAN is already there, and I think more and more we get into the SASE coming in. I think that's where the movement will be able to see. SD-WAN is already there.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Prasad, any additions to the pointer?
Sure.
What do you feel? Do you see that?
A few years back, people used to say when the cloud adoption had the same question, people, no, I'm not going to go for cloud. I'll have my own DC, my own infrastructure. But today it is inevitable. Everybody has to go to cloud. So is the SD-WAN.
Right.
People are still reluctant. No, I don't want to spend. So I'm sure a lot of us are going towards that journey, and that's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of other new technologies would add on to SD-WAN as well. So we're all excited. Let's look forward for the future.
Yeah, Bhavna, one thing I think what we leave with, what I like Abhijit said, SST I think is the direction to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So in fact, SST was one, and then over the period of time has gone for a toss. Now it is A for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, C for cloud, and D for data science. And SD-WAN definitely fits in there. So got to upgrade our ABCD and move on, right?
I love your definition of the ABCD out here. So, ladies and gentlemen, a lot is coming up in this space, and I'm sure we all had a thorough discussion and a great experience viewing and hearing all our dignitaries on the screen right now. So, thank you so much for your valuable time, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take
It was
care.
a pleasure, and thank you to all my
Fantastic
dear
time.
colleagues and panelists. I think you enjoyed this session thoroughly. Look forward to much more. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Likewise. Take care. Bye.